Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our franchise activation conference. My name is Brian Schnell, and I'm the chair of the franchise practice at the Faegre Drinker Law Firm. I'm based in Minneapolis. I want to give a special shout out to our sponsors for this conference, Google, Local Act, and something that's a group that's near and dear to me and to us on this panel, the International Franchise Association. I also want to say a special thanks to our two subject matter experts. Today, I'm going to introduce them in just a minute, but I want to say thanks, Saunda, and thanks, Craig, for taking the time today. The two of you are true franchise leaders in franchising and have been for years. And so for those of you that are viewing this, we're in for a special treat today because I've had the pleasure of being on panels with Saunda and Craig, and they are the real deal. And so I'm excited. I hope you're excited. What we're going to talk about is real, and it's meaningful, and it's what you franchise owners have been living and breathing now for 8+ months. And so I've heard so much from franchisees like Saunda and Craig on how they're making a difference every single day, not only in their franchise businesses and with their employees and their customers, but also their broader community, the franchise network. And so it really is that fabric that is what's keeping us going. And so again, I just want to say thank you and look forward to this the conversation. Here's the way we're going to organize this. Well, you know what? Before I do that, though, I'd just like to introduce Saunda and Craig, and I'm going to ask them to share a little bit about their personal experience and their history in franchising. But first is Saunda Kitchen, and Saunda is a franchise owner in the Mr. Rooter franchise system, which is part of the Neighborly brands. Now I think it's more than 15 brands, Saunda, right? And it's grows month to month. But Saunda, can you share with us a little bit more about your experience and background in franchising?
Yes, thanks for having me, Brian. Yeah, Neighborly is about 23 or so strong now. So very pleased to be a part of the Neighborly group. I joined franchising about 25 years ago through Dwyer Group, now called Neighborly. I've had the privilege of owning and operating Mr. Electric, Rainbow International franchise, and Mr. Rooter franchise as well. And I've had the pleasure of serving at the pleasure of the IFA for about 12 years now that I've been with the part of IFA. So lots of amazing friendships, learnings, best practices, and I'm happy to learn and share with you all today.
Great, thanks, Saunda. And then our other franchisee is Craig Leonard, and Craig is a multi-unit franchisee in the Rally's restaurant brand, but he also has years of experience, was the CEO for a in-home healthcare franchisor, and prior to that spent time in the McDonald's system. So Craig, welcome, and do you mind sharing with us a little more of your background?
Thanks, Brian. Like Saunda said, thanks for allowing me to be part of this board. You know, I stumbled into franchising back in 1974 as a part-time crew kid with McDonald's. And as you mentioned, I spent 30 years with the brand, ending up as the COO based out of Tokyo, running Japan for the brand. I've also had a chance to work for such great brands as Burger King, Smashburger, and also as the president of Senior Helper. And while the brands and the widgets have changed, it's franchising that has remained constant, and the opportunities that that's created not only for myself and my family, but for all the people that work with us every day now in our 9 Rally's restaurants that we operate down here in Hampton Roads. So again, I'm excited to be part of the panel discussion with both of you today. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Craig. And so as I noted, gang, we're in for a special treat today. And the broader topic that we're going to cover today, and here's my mug. Again, I'm the franchise practice chair at the Faegre drinker firm, but I've been in franchising all my professional career, and it's about, and Saunda mentioned this, the people. It's the people that really, really matter, and it's those relationships. And Saunda and Craig are two of the best. So here's the main topic that we want to cover today, and so it's on the title of our overall presentation is protecting your business and customers, how to prepare for policy changes and compliance. And Saunda and Craig have been doing that, almost from the middle of March through now, and likely for the next whatever period of months. It will, some aspect of what we're talking about is going to be in place likely for 2021. There likely are changes to both Saunda and Craig's business that will be more permanent. And so I think, and that's the beauty of franchising. That's the beauty of local franchise ownership, is to be flexible, to be nimble, and to care about every single part of that business, to keep that business operating, to keeping employees employed, and to keeping our customers happy and satisfied. And so that's the broader topic that we're going to cover today. And what I asked Saunda and Craig to maybe focus on first, because it's something that's near and dear to all three of us and likely all of you, is leadership. And so from a small business ownership perspective, how have you led during this pandemic and all of its uncertainties? And so what I'd like to do is ask Saunda to start off that conversation, share some of her real world experiences. Then Craig will share some of his, and then we'll have a little back and forth among the three of us. Saunda, take it away.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, we were many of us all caught off guard by this, and it's interesting because living in Sonoma County since 2017, we have been hit with some sort of catastrophic event. Fire after fire after fire, flooding, power outages. And so as much as I would like to say that we are CAT team ready, we weren't as we would like to have been. So immediately we kind of went into, what do we have to stop doing and what do we need to start doing? And we had to prioritize those things really quickly. First and foremost was the safety of our team. How is everyone okay? Is everyone safe? Do they have what they need? So what does shelter in place mean when you're an essential business? Trying to get all the information I possibly could. So we had to freeze payments, freeze up, keep cash quickly as we, decide what we need to do in order to protect our team, protect our culture, and protect our positioning, in the marketplace. So I immediately enacted hazard pay, put everyone on a volunteer basis to come to work. So if they didn't feel comfortable working, then they didn't have to work. Of the 30 team members that I had 28 report to work the next day. It's pretty amazing. And we were very forward about we're doing this together. We're learning together, because at that time, as we remember, mid-March, there was new references for our guidelines that were changing rapidly and daily, and getting PPE equipment was very difficult. So we really focused on what does our team need first and foremost. What does our team need? And that included buying power, right? Getting things for their own home and making sure that they had food and supplies and everything that they would need. So that was a huge deal for us to deal with. We were used to meeting in person often, doing our little team huddles and Tuesday morning meetings. And so we immediately, everyone was dispatched from home, work from home, that transition as well. And so I wanted to make sure that I'm still present, right? Whenever there's a challenge in a business, the first thing a leader needs to do is be present and be available and be there and show that, we're in this together. And so I became very familiar with having to be comfortable with the uncomfortable of videoing myself and making sure that, I was sending the message that that even though we're in this terrible situation, this is not our permanent reality. And we need to, go forward as we know more information, together with keeping our culture intact. So starting and stopping was huge. Creating this CAT team environment, I reached out to many of my IFA friends and family that were doing the same thing, wondering what to do. Joe Lindenmeyer, California Closets, he was excellent to assist. He has some military background, so it helped, rally the troops. Here's what we need to do. So it was just, an amazing time, as many of you have experienced that same thing. I'm sure, Craig, yourself as well.
Thanks, Saunda. Craig, you want to share your initial thoughts in that regard?
Saunda, I think you brought up some excellent points, and one that clearly we have adopted from the beginning was that you've got to get out there and lead the charge, and you have to have presence in it. Because we have about 200 employees on any given day, and they're looking for leadership because the news changes, and the news changes depending on what station you're on. We have an excellent governor in the state of Virginia. While people may disagree with some of his decisions, he's been open and honest with everybody, and he's taken actions that he believes will be the benefit of everybody who lives here. Now, some of those, we're in the restaurant business, some of those have put some limitations on our ability to do business. So you have to get adapted. You have to welcome change and not get frustrated by it, because this changes every day, as Brian mentioned earlier in the intro. And so you look at it and say, what does my customer want? And again, we're lucky in some instances that you got to eat. And so people are looking for food and ways to get food. And so we have to work with our teams to provide it in a safe way that's safe for the guests and safe for our staff to be able to provide. We've also been very fortunate. We've had a very involved franchisor to work with that has been aggressive in helping its franchisees use best practices and share those best practices with the system as frequently as daily calls or emails to let people know some changes that might make it easier and safer for us to do business. And so I think that's vitally important. If you're part of a franchise system, make sure you reach out and use your other franchisees and franchisors to help get through this. Provide the leadership and accept the change. I think the other thing I might add here is that we've also been very fortunate. We've worked very closely with the NRA and the staff there, the National Restaurant Association, and the Virginia Restaurant and Travel and Hospitality Association is absolutely the best. And I would recommend to people, if you don't belong to either one of these, go out and join it tomorrow and take advantage of it. Your contribution will be minimal, and the impact you will get from these folks and the help you will get, knowing that you don't have to fight this alone, is just unbelievable. And the last thing is, we've been very active and aggressive reaching out to our congressmen and our senators and their staff. I think some of those staff members we're on a first name basis with now, because there's things that we need them to do. There's things that we need to get them engaged in. I know that they were distracted going through the elections. The elections are behind us now, and you need their help. And trust me, they will listen to you if you're going to pick up the phone or send them an email. They want to know what you are thinking, and they can be part of the solution as well. You're not in this alone, even though some days it seems so.
Well, isn't that, as leaders, there is that, kind of dynamic, right? At times you do feel that you're leading, and there's some I don't know if loneliness is the right word, but then you quickly realize, and you guys have both pointed out, how you have to identify the resources, the information resources, the people resources, and have that available. And again, you both have shared how important it is to take advantage of that on an ongoing basis. And so I think for each of, and that's not going to diminish anytime soon, right? I mean, and maybe it doesn't happen at the same frequency every single week. And it was really hot and heavy, if you will, those first couple weeks and months. And I talked to franchisors that were not only having, I mean, they weren't monthly calls, they were weekly calls, weekly information, maybe even twice a week or 3 times a week. So maybe it's not quite as frequent, but it's still crucial. And it may pick up in the coming months where we need to kind of get back to that, depending on how things play out, because we're now getting ready to, go through some additional shutdowns in some of the states and the like. So I think that's really, really, really important. Saunda, anything else to share as it relates to the kind of state orders and navigate through that in particular, not only early on, but maybe as you kind of see how it might unfold in the coming, weeks and months?
Yeah, we were faced with the uncertainty, just like many of you operating as an essential business, but we're plumbers. And so we've always operated at a high level of protecting the health of the nation. So, just finding out information is really what we needed. And, Craig, like you were speaking of, we did rely heavily on our local assembly, our local congressman. I met with our local congressman because part of the challenge was we wanted our people to stay safe. We wanted our customers to stay safe, right? We wanted to make sure that not only is our team members showing up healthy, but is the environment that they're going to be working in healthy as well. And so, we all probably went through that experience of lack of testing and lack of testing in a timely fashion. So, we got real clear with what that meant about direct contact and remote contact. And so one of my asks for my congressman, Mike Thompson, was, we have to speed up this process because now I have to quarantine people. I have to have them out of the workplace because they're waiting on results and they feel completely fine. And, we needed to, have our voices heard as small business owners that we want to do the right thing. We want to keep all these environments safe for everyone involved, but we need faster information, right? Like you had pointed out, Brian, in the beginning, is we have to move quickly in order to move through things and do so with, good education. So yes, definitely reached out to IFA. IFA created a portal, and anything you would ever need to know, going to the PPP loan. I feel like I was way more educated because of IFA and because of our local leaders and people like you here on this panel than my banker was, and I was like, well, no, I already have everything you need. I've done all the legwork. I know exactly how to qualify for this. And so that helped being able to get a really early loan, like funded April 10. So, that gave me the confidence that we needed to keep going, to keep going through the fatigue, like you were talking about, Brian. You get a little fatigued of having to be on all the time, even though you love it. It's also can be a little, scary at times and a little harsh at times. And getting up and going every day, you need that confidence behind you, like the PPP loan did, like the confidence of information and education gives you when you're leading through these uncertain times, for sure.
Yep. And when you guys are talking about government representatives and those contacts, it isn't just at the federal level, it's at the state level, it's at the local level, right? This is really an opportunity to make those connections because we need all of them to be aware of what we need in order to keep our businesses open and operating, keeping our employees employed. And Saunda, my wife, would absolutely agree. What you guys are doing is an essential service because we couldn't have done it, right? I mean, so it's just important to kind of keep that brand promise and passion, there really is an opportunity to reinforce how important that is. And again, Craig, I know in the QSR brands, right, there's been a resurgence in the popularities, but just people are moving more towards that segment of the food business for the right reasons, right?
Yes, Brian. It's an unfortunate reality, but this has been a great year for fast food brands, especially for us at Checkers and Rallies. And one of the benefits of that is we've been able to keep employees employed. And a matter of fact, we've been trying to find more employees, which is in and of itself quite a bit of a challenge during this pandemic, because in some cases, employees are afraid to work and because of, the COVID situation. And on the other hand, you have employees that may be getting some type of a government benefit at the moment, and they don't want to interfere with that as well. And they're trying to balance what's right for their family. And at the same time, people are trying to feed their families that are now at home. And the kids might not have been at school, and so they have to feed them at home now. The person who used to go to an office no longer goes to an office. And so you have that larger family unit that's now in the four walls of their house and looking for ways to feed them. And so that has created challenges. And we've gotten creative, and we've used the advantages of our local government, our city councilmen as well, to keep up with some of these changes and ask them for forgiveness in saying, hey, look, you want restaurants to close at 10 o'clock at night, for instance, but we have people that are trying to feed families after that. Can we do it safely through a drive-through window? Can we do it safely using an Uber Eats or that type of, a home delivery thing? So it's really spawned a whole new type of universe for how people eat and where they eat and when they eat. And it's creating new challenges for people in our industry to try to meet those demands and needs of that consumer. And in some cases, we end up being MacGyver, trying to come up with ways to be able to do that and do that safely. Sneeze guards on drive-through windows. In the last 18 months, I just built 3 restaurants with beautiful dining rooms. Those beautiful dining rooms are closed now. And at some stage, they'll open and we'll welcome guests back in. But right now, it's the right decision for my staff. It's the right decision for the consumer out there that we'll just continue to offer either drive-through experience or a home delivery experience so you can still enjoy what you want to eat. And our competitors are doing the exact same thing out there.
Yep. And so those are good examples where, it might be dialed back a little bit, but some of that is going to be here for years to come. And I think that's some of the innovation that, we often talk about in franchising and business, and it was driven by the pandemic. But again, I just love the fact that that's the beauty of franchising. That's the beauty of small business ownership, is the ability to innovate is just second to none. So again, I just have deep admiration for what you all as franchise owners do day in and day out. Let's talk a few minutes about the PPP loans, and in part also looking forward. We hear a lot about how just generally too many small business owners still need access to capital. So just maybe talk generally about that, Craig, if you want to start off on just the general PPP loan working capital topic, then Saunda, and then we'll transition into a deeper dive on managing and leading employees.
Sure, Brian. We applied for PPP loan and found it very difficult initially, as did many other small businesses. And we do business with 2 large banks. We have a large business with both of them, and found that their systems just couldn't handle it. So we reached out to a good-sized regional bank here that was wonderful. and things got together very, very quickly, and we received our loan, and we're very thankful for that. We think it was a great program, and I'm hoping that when the government starts to get engaged again, that these funds will become available to other businesses, because it made a world of difference. And then now the challenge is that these PPP loans, now people are starting to fill out the forgiveness for these if they're able to do that. And there's a little snafu in that the way it is written now with the IRS is that those loans were to be used for labor expenses and rent expenses, basically, utilities as well. However, as it stands today, if you use these funds, you cannot deduct these on your P&L. These are not expenses that normally you would be able to do. So if you got a $100,000 PPP loan and now you're going to apply for forgiveness, well, when you're doing your P&L, you can't take that $100,000 as an expense. So basically, that $100,000 now is taxable to you. Now, the government realizes this, and hopefully they're going to fix it. But as it stands today, that's a challenge. And so I would encourage people who have had PPP loans to be working with their accountants to figure out exactly where they're at, because one of the other things they may want to do is, if this stays that way, is they may want to pay this PPP loan back in this very favorable terms, and then take the employee tax credit that they can take based on how many employees they have, and it's fairly generous. And they may, at the end of the day, be in a better position. But if nothing else, I would clearly encourage them to get a hold of their senator right now and say, please change this problem that's in the PPP loan and make those money tax deductible for small business. Otherwise, it could be a killer.
Great advice, Craig. Saunda, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I just, it's going back to relationships. So your relationship with your banker, that certainly paid off for us. We were with a small credit union, and we were getting funded far quicker than many of our friends that were with larger banking institutions. But that was the same situation with having a personal relationship already with our congressmen and our senators. Like, we've been seeing them, we've been on the Hill, we've been active with advocacy, and in that relationship got us more phone calls and got us, more of the information to give them that we needed to continue to succeed and to continue to keep our people employed. And just the PPP loan in general is, yes, you're, using it for those specific purposes. But one of the other things that was vitally important is because since I knew that my payroll was going to get paid, I knew that my people could get paid, it allowed me to not be so stressed in the situation about what are we going to do with our brand? What are we going to do with our business? And so I was able to actually increase our marketing spend and increase our marketing budget when many of our, our fellow franchise members wouldn't have been able to do that. Even many small businesses wouldn't have been able to do that, because from the perspective that we were sitting in is like restaurants, like food, we still need plumbing, right? They're essential businesses. They go hand in hand. Input, output business. We're both vitally necessary, for the world to operate correctly. So I wanted to be top of the mind awareness for not only our customers when we were moving through and getting through this pandemic, but also to be able to attract team members. Like Craig was saying, there were people that maybe were off work because they were getting some sort of governmental stipend, but then when they needed to return to work, I wanted to be there, that had the person that they want to work for, that that has been through it and learned from it. So I wanted to present ourselves with real good brand awareness for our consumers and for our potential employees as well, and current employees.
That's a great point, Saunda, on how important it is to deliver on the brand promise and to create that brand awareness and to double down on everything that means to your customers. And Craig, you alluded to that too. It's an opportunity to keep existing customers and bring in new customers, like may not have necessarily existed before that. And Saunda, you mentioned this too, just a huge shout out to the IFA on everything they've done from a leadership perspective, especially as it related to the PPP loan related issues and kind of navigating through that. And Craig, to your point, I think that the importance of that gang is only going to continue. So it is time to, if you're an IFA member, take full advantage of it. If you're not yet, now might be the time to look at that opportunity, because they really have done a phenomenal job. Let's move to managing and leading employees. And you guys have talked about the importance of that already. Saunda, you just shared with us the importance of that kind of relationship and leadership. But what haven't we talked about yet that really meant a difference to you and your team in managing and leading employees? Saunda, you started talking about those real uncertainties that they were going through, and how that kind of connectivity with your employees was more important than ever before. So Saunda, you want to share, and then Craig, we'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I couldn't talk with them enough because we were so used to not being able to see, but I didn't want to overwhelm them. And a lot of things that I discussed was, how are they taking care of themselves? How are they taking care of their families? What are the things that they need, and how could I help assist in those things? And we still are doing this to this day. We still are connecting our buying power. If there seems to be, a little bit of a toilet paper shortage going on, and a little bit of a, paper towel shortage going on. So if we can facilitate that for them, it's little things, right, that we can look out for them to take care of them. Building this brand that they're proud to be a part of, this brand that has been there with them, for them, to them, for their families, making sure that they're safe. Again, we were lucky enough to be able to put hazard pay in place and to put a volunteer basis. And I think that really has paid off for continuing to build our culture. That's what our culture is about here. We want to take care of each other. And so talk about walking the talk. It gave us an opportunity to really do that. And again, it wasn't so much about this is our brand promise. While that is very important, it was what do you need? How can I assist you? What can I get for you today? Because we're in this together. We're doing this, for the first time, and offering a place for them to be for feedback. Things that they could share. We tried to host some happy hours, but then we got, incredibly busy, and people are doing their things. But anything that we could do that was culture centric, is still obviously part of what we continue to do. And that's why we are, again, like what Craig was saying, now being able to now hire, continuously.
Fantastic. Craig?
Yeah, I think Saunda's point is right on. You have to stay true to your culture of your brand. And so we made sure that during all of this that we didn't forget the things that we normally do, which are important, because people were nervous about what was going on outside them. And so they wanted some normality, even as a quick service restaurant. And so that was, we did performance reviews and pay raises, as we always do. We pay people for their birthday and Thanksgiving, and we'll pay them for Christmas, even though we're not open on those two big holidays. And we gave all of the crews turkeys for Thanksgiving. And the feedback that we got from families of employees was just unbelievable. It made you feel good about what you're doing. And the key is to stay focused and let those people know that you really care about them. When somebody isn't feeling well, they're concerned, well, how am I going to pay the rent? And we're like, don't worry about the rent, because, we took advantage of some of the programs. Some of them were mandated by the government, but some that we had to institute ourselves to make people whole, to get through this. Because, selfishly, we don't want a sick person to come in and work for us. We work in tight quarters, very close to each other. and the impact of someone getting sick can be disastrous to our business. And so we want them to be healthy. So, it's just making people feel good about themselves, making people realize that you care about them as a person, and making people realize that you will help them get through. Again, I think it goes back to leadership. People are looking for leaders. Kind of, it's that follow me, over the mountain, a charge. Follow me, I will take care of you. And I think that people who do that in their business every day, and lots of people do this, are the ones who, when this ends, will be successful and will be there. And not only will employees stay with them and new employees will come to them, but guests will come to them too, because they felt safe and they felt like somebody cared of them. And so those are the vitally important things. And there was no real silver bullet in taking care of employees. It's just focusing in on doing what's right. And I think if you do that, you'll get through this.
Well said. Well said. Final topic we want to spend just a few minutes on, because this really is about a public health crisis that we're dealing with, is, can you guys just share for a few minutes, and you each have talked about this before, but it's the masks that Saunda, that you guys have to wear when you enter people's homes, the testing that's going on with employees. Can you share a few best practices on how to not only just do it, but also, navigate through when we've got the, some of the politicization of some of the public health, issues. Again, how do you lead? How do you lead through these very interesting and unique times? Saunda and then Craig.
Very interesting. You spoke about innovation. And we certainly were lucky enough to have team leaders innovate, making masks when we couldn't get them. We had, team members' friends who were sewing, very right in the beginning, making these things to make our teams more safe. Now, we've always been part of safety protocols is our measure, right? We wear booties before we enter the home. We've always cleaned around cleaning products and leave the home cleaner than we found it. So that part wasn't new to us, but what was interesting is, the development of hand washing stations on each one of our vans to make sure that our team was safe in handling, all these items. And, just continually gaining access to how do we do it better, and so we were lucky enough that our county, as strict and as crazy as you were like, am I violating their health restrictions, our team members, because we're requiring them to check their temperature and tell us about it. We were constantly worried between how do we protect the health and safety of our team and our customers, but also their individual rights. I mean, this is a very difficult time to make sure you're doing it all correctly. And so luckily enough, we have an app that our employees use to check in on every day. They have to make sure that they don't have a fever, that they haven't been around anyone known to have COVID, or they don't have any COVID-like symptoms themselves. So this has been a good resource for us locally to be able to say, look, we have all of these protocols in place to protect our customers. When our customers are saying, what are you doing? How will I know that it's safe, that you will send someone that's healthy into my home, that our domiciles had always been shelter before, but now even more so, very protected space. And then how do we ask the customer, is the space that we're going to be in today healthy as well? And so, lots of learning about protocols, changing our whole dialogue for the brand wide, right? Because we have very specific ways we answer the phone, very specific ways we our 14 steps that, that make sure that our customer gets the brand promise. So working with our team, our headquarters at Neighborly, working with them on how to make sure we are effectively keeping everyone as safe as possible. working with our local, agencies to be in the forefront of saying, look, we want to do it right. Please help us do it right by facilitating some of these programs that we need. So for sure that going forward, I think, like you're saying, Brian, a lot of these things aren't going to go away. We have protected a lot of people's health and continue to do so. And so this business as usual will be continuing to put our booties on like we did before, but now continuing to, wear our masks and have effortless, contactless transactions happening. I mean, we're in a place where we can stay far enough away from our customer most often where we're not even within 6 feet. So we've been lucky to have a really healthy team and a really healthy community around us.
Thanks, Saunda. Craig.
Yeah, I think I want to put a little twist on Saunda's comment. We've fallen into the business as unusual because our usual business changes just as hers does and everyone else's. A couple of things that have worked to our advantage is that, again, our franchisor really stepped in, especially from a supply chain perspective, not only to make sure we had food products, but cleaning products, because we're just using so much more than we did even before. I mean, and so they've been a tremendous resource for us. But we even stepped outside of that because masks, we wanted to make sure we had tremendous amounts of masks. So we bought those from wherever we could get them and bring them in and stockpile them in all the restaurants. So there was no reason why an employee didn't have them. And then we built on some things that we've always done, that in the restaurant business, you always wash your hands. You just wash them a lot. And in food production, we always wore gloves. But now, when we're up front dealing with guests, whether it's making change or filling a soda fountain, we wear gloves there. So everybody wears gloves now, and we change them constantly. So I think it's actually gotten us to be better at what we were supposed to be doing before. And so that's a real positive to come out of this. And I think, like both of you have said, hey, tomorrow is going to be different, how people are reacting to us. I mean, we're looking at to-go orders now where you'll be able to come in and press a code and open a locker type of thing, and you don't have to deal with anybody. Your food will be in that locker. You come and get it. You touch it. You don't have to interact with anybody. And so we think we'll be in a position to test that at the beginning of the year. And so it's developing and creating new opportunities for us. Brian, you said it the best. I think you were talking about franchises and changing, and I date myself when I go back at my McDonald's days and saw us. We got a dining room. We never had the dining room. We had a drive-through. We never had drive-through. We got nuggets, and it changed the whole world. And so outside forces force people to get creative and do a better job. It's unfortunate that the pandemic that's doing this right now. But taking advantage of the changes will allow people to grow their business in a very safe and profitable manner. So we are good at masks. We are good at washing hands. We have sneeze guards on the drive-throughs. But at some stage, we'll open the dining rooms up again, and we'll have to deal with some of the changes there as well. But there's lots of people out there that want to help you. You just sometimes have to reach out and find those people and put them as part of your team. You're not out there by yourself, right?
Thanks, Craig. I think I just want to close by again thanking Saunda and Craig. You guys didn't disappoint one bit. I wish we, could have done this in person, but nobody does it better than Google virtually. So we're delighted that we got this opportunity. Again, thanks to Google and Local Act and everything they're doing with franchisees. I just want to echo so many of the things that Saunda and Craig shared with us. As franchisees, you guys are not alone. Lean on all the different resources and people that Craig and Saunda referenced, because together together, we are absolutely going to get through this. So again, Craig and Saunda, thank you.